First of all, every object, every model in MongoDB needs to have an ID. And there is a specific way we need to write our IDs using Prisma when using MongoDB. So go ahead and write ID string at ID at default in brackets auto. Great. And then at map annotations underscore ID at db.object ID. Perfect. And we're not gonna write this any more times. We're just gonna copy it for our future models. All right. Next thing the user needs to have is name, which is a string and optional. Username, which is also a string and optional. Bio, which is also a string and optional. And for username, you can also put at unique right here. So we make sure that only one username per user. Great. Email is also a string and optional. And of course, also email needs to be unique as well. Email verified is going to be a date time, which is optional. Next, we're going to have image, which is a type of string and optional. And now we're going to have cover image, which is also a type of string and optional. And we're going to have profile image, which is a type of string and optional. The reason I separated this profile image and cover image from this image is because this image is used for next out session. And the reason we don't want to use this field, but we do need it, is because profile image can get pretty large and sometimes that can break the session. So that's why we have this duplicate profile image right here, because we are going to use this field, but this image field is needed for next out. All right. And then we're going to have hashed password, which is a string and also optional. We're going to have created at, which is a date, time, and default is going to be now. So the moment we create this user model, we're going to set the created at date. And updated at is going to be date, time, and we can just use the at updated at Prisma function. Great. Then we're going to have following IDs, which is going to be an array of string like this, and a type is going to be db.object_id. All right. And then we're going to have the last field as notification, which is a type of optional Boolean like this. All right. And now we're going to write some relations. So user is able to have posts with a relation, an array of posts like this. Comments with an array of comment like this. and notifications with an array of notification like this. Right now, everything is underlined because we do not have these models defined yet. So let's go ahead and create our post model. So model post, and you can just copy the ID from the user. It's gonna have a body, which is a required string. It's gonna have created at, which again is date time at default now. It's gonna have updated at, which is date time at updated at. Is gonna have a user ID, which is a type of string, which is a type of db.object ID. And it's gonna have light IDs, which is an array of string, which is also a db.object ID. And lastly, we're just gonna create the relation between the user. So go ahead and write user, capital user, at relation, open brackets, fields, open array, user ID. References is gonna be ID, and on delete, we're gonna write cascade. All right, so you can see that now underline for post just went away, and that's because we created a proper relation with the user. Basically, what we are saying here is we are creating a user relation using the field user ID, which we defined right here, and we're gonna reference that to the user ID right here. And when we delete the user, we also wanna cascade this post because the post cannot exist without the user. Great. And I also want to add another relation right here on the bottom, comments, which is just going to be an array of comments like this, right? So the user will also have a relationship with comment, but each post is also going to have a relation. with their comments as well. All right, now let's write the model for comment. So model comment, you can copy the ID, and it's going to be pretty similar to post. So body, which is a type of required string, created at, which is date, time at default, now, updated at, which is date, time at updated at, user ID, which is a string of db.objectID, and post ID, which is also a string of db.objectID. All right, and now we just have to create two relations here. So user at relation, and we're gonna write the same thing as above. So fields, user ID, preferences, ID, and on delete cascade. And you can just copy this and create the same relation for post. So post, instead of user here, is going to be post. Instead of user ID, is going to be post ID. And the reference is the same because post has the same field named ID. All right, and let's create our last model here. So model notification, and let's just write an ID. Actually, let's copy the ID from the comment since it is the same everywhere. And notification is going to have a body, which is a type of string. It's going to have a user ID, which is also a type of string, but db.objectID. And it's also going to have created at, which is date, time at default now. All right, and we just have to create a relationship with the user. You can see now. All right, and we just have to create a relationship with the user. You can see it's still red right here. And for that, you can just copy this from the comment since it is exactly the same. Great. You have finished the entire schema for all of our models. And now we actually want to see these fields, actually these collections in our database. Right now, if you go into browse collections, you're not going to be able to see anything because we don't have it yet. So go ahead and go into your terminal right here. And now that we have some stuff in our schema Prisma, you can actually go ahead and run npx prisma db push. As you can see, it successfully connected to our database test using this cluster, and now it found all the new collections we created, all the new relations we created, and it's going to push that to the database right here. Great. And now if you refresh, you can see that we have comment, notification, post, and user. Amazing, amazing job. All right. Now it's time for us to create our authentication and login and register controllers. So to do that, let's just install Prisma client. So go ahead and install npm install add prisma/client. Great. And just remember to run your project, npm run dev. All right, and we're going to create a new library right here. So go ahead and create a new folder called libs, and inside of libs, you're going to create a new file called prismadb.ts. Great. And in here, we're going to import Prisma client from Prisma/client like this. All right. And now we're going to declare global, declare global var Prisma is equal to Prisma client pipe undefined. All right. And now let's just create our client. So const client is equal to global this Prisma pipe new Prisma client. And then we're just going to write a environment check. So if process.environment.node environment is not equal to production, global this Prisma is equal to client. And in the end, just export default client. Process.environment.node environment is not equal to production, global this Prisma is equal to client. And in the end, just export default client. Perfect. So what we do doing here is we are basically doing kind of like a fix or a hack for Next.js hot reloading, because what happens is that Next.js can hot reload and create a bunch of new Prisma client instances, and then stuff just stops to work because it's simply breaking stuff because too many instances are active. So this prevents it by saving it in a global base variable, which is not affected by hot reload. All right. And now what I want you to do is I want you to close everything. So this prevents it by saving it in a global base variable, which is not affected by hot reload. All right. Create a bunch of new Prisma client instances, and then stuff just stops to work because it's simply breaking stuff because too many instances are active. So this prevents it by saving it in a global base variable, which is not affected by hot reload. All right. And now what I want you to do is I want you to close everything, and I want you to go into Pages API and create a new folder called auth. And inside this auth folder, I want you to create a new file, open square brackets, ... next auth, and outside.ts. Great. All right. And now we have to install some packages to start working on. for our authentication. So open your terminal again. And let's start by installing bcrypt. So npm install bcrypt. We can also install the types. So npm install at types, npm install -b at types/bcrypt. All right. Now we have to install next-out, so npm install next-out. And last thing we need is npm install at next-out/prisma-adapter. Make sure you have this at right here. I know this looks similar to what we just installed, but this is a separate package and we need it for Prisma. Great. Now just remember to run the project again. All right, everything seems to be running, and let's write our next out. So go ahead. Import bcrypt from bcrypt. Import next-out from next-out. Import credentials provider from next-out/providers/credentials. And import curly brackets Prisma